Okay, and so this is being recorded. Thank you and welcome to our Tuesday tour tonight. If you haven't yet met me, I am Stephanie Kessen. I am the founder of the Online Itinerant, and I'm also a teacher in the field. I am still in the field right now. So everything that I do, that I have created, that I advertise, that I talk about, I am experiencing and using and understanding along the way. So everything that has been created inside the platform does come to you from an honest experience as somebody who has been in the field for a long time and is still active in the field. Just so I can kind of get a sense of who is here, can you just sort of put in the chat, say hello, where are you joining from? And are you a professional or a parent? And are you a member of one of our academies? Professionals would be the Professional Academy, and our parent program is called the Friend Academy, which stands for Family Resources and Information for Educating, for Resources and Information for Educating the Deaf. So, advocating and navigating the deaf journey. So, okay, fantastic. Preston is here, not yet a member, wanting to check it out. We've got Tony, not yet a member. We've got Denise, who is a member. We've got Gala, who is a member. And she's joining from Georgia. And Lee, who's been a member for a while. Lee, or you've kind of left and then you've come back, and we know Lee for a while. So fantastic. Well, welcome everybody. This helps me
Oh,
to know
no,
that.
that's fine. If you want to go, that's
Oh,
fine.
and Corey, you are not muted. I'm going to mute you right now. Okay, you're not muted now. So feel free again as I kind of navigate. This is a personal tour for you. So if you have got questions, then again, don't hesitate to put them in the chat or take over the mic. We had a training this past week, Thursday, that was talking about the Perez case and kind of like what went wrong and what did this look like. Now, if you are not familiar with this particular litigation that happened, this is a recent Supreme Court ruling for a deaf student in Michigan who needed a sign language interpreter, and they were unable to find a sign language interpreter. He was provided with an aide who knew minimal sign, who kind of communicated through home signs with him and continued with him through his educational journey. He had an itinerant teacher for the deaf and was placed in special ed classroom, but then also mainstream classes, was given passing grades all the way through. And then before it was time for him to graduate, the school informed the family that he wouldn't actually be graduating with a diploma because he didn't have the language skills. He didn't have reading and writing skills equivalent to be able to graduate with a diploma. He would be receiving a certificate. And the family went through the whole process of a complaint because they didn't understand that coming up all of the way. And you can watch the entire training to kind of get the full scoop of it. But basically, the bottom line was that the Supreme Court ruled that he was denied FAPE. So he was denied free and appropriate education, basically because he had language deprivation and wasn't provided an opportunity to get the language that he needed, and he didn't have the opportunity because he didn't have the language access that he needed. He didn't have access to his curriculum, to his school, to his education. And what was interesting about this particular case, a couple things are interesting about it. One is that they actually went through ADA. They did not go through IDEA, which is the compensatory services. They went through ADA, which means that they basically filed a suit that kind of we don't actually know the full outcome of the suit, but the implication is that it's compensatory resources that lost wages for like his life is kind of my understanding of it. So what's been especially interesting, a lot of emails came after that because this isn't he's not an isolated case, right? Where there is a shortage of sign language interpreters. It's a reality. There is a shortage of programs for the deaf. There is a shortage of all of these things. And so we're all kind of navigating how do we best provide for a student that needs sign access, right? They need full language immersion, and yet we are limited on what the resources have to offer. So the online itinerant has some resources to be able to support you in this journey. We've had them all along, and these are resources that will continue to grow. So tonight I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour of what some of those resources are, but just know that these are not the exclusive resources that are inside the all that we have to offer. So you'll have to keep coming back to more Tuesday tours to see what else is in there. But we are going to take a peek at some of these things. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me get us lined up here to view, and I am going to take you directly to the Online Itinerant website. So inside the Online Itinerant, first of all, we've got a full website that kind of talks through all of our different resources, but there are a number of different options to be able to access the resources. And we've got the Professional Academy, and we've got the Toolbox, and we've got our trainings. We also have the Friend Academy, which, like I mentioned, is our parent program. So once you purchase anything, you get a library, you get an account, and you kind of set up, you log in once, and once you're logged in, you can access everything easily. You can tell if you're logged in already because you will have an icon with your picture or with the little, person on it, and then you can click on My Library. So really quickly, I'm just going to give you a short and sweet kind of glimpse of what all is in the library altogether. So we've got a number of user guides. There's so many resources inside of here that people say, I get overwhelmed. I want to know exactly what I need and where I need to go to. So these are different kind of like outlines. If you are kicking off the school year, here are your resources and handouts. If you are trying to work with administration, here are your resources and handouts. So it just kind of goes through, and it's being built on, it's being added to throughout the year. So this is just starting. The other things I want to point out to you is that we've got, if you are a member of the Academy, then we say join us on T days. We've got Tuesdays, which is our tour days, and then Thursdays, which are kind of our member days. So we've got our monthly trainings, which happen the first of each month, and then we've got power hours. So for people who went to the training on Thursday, this Thursday coming up, we're going to get together and it's a power hour. So we get to kind of like talk through and discuss and hash out some of these things that people said, what about this situation? What about that situation? Does anybody have any resources for this? And we're going to kind of share it with the group and kind of get stronger together. We also have the same thing for parents, and that is the third Thursday of the month. And then the fourth Thursday of the month is another professional power hour. We have our teaching toolbox. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Our monthly bonus live trainings. This happens the first Thursday of every month. Our next one is on AAC devices and deaf students. Like, how do you know when this is a good fit? And what tools can we use to assess this? And how can we maximize it to make it work well? And then we have our on-demand training. And then if you are a member of the Professional Academy, every family on your caseload can have a free membership to the Friend Academy. Again, our parent program, which is typically $199 per family. But I want to be able to support you and help you walk alongside of your families. So you get it for free, and then they get a coupon so that they get it for free. So again, this is a great opportunity because you can point families in the right direction. You can show them trainings. They can come to power hours. They can get the same information that you get. They also get the teaching toolbox, so they get to work on homework. They can reinforce skills with you. So it's really an amazing value. So you figure however many families you have on your caseload times $200 each, that's the value of this access for you. So where I want to start with this is just talking about the trainings and what trainings we have available to you if you are trying to work with students who need sign to support them. First of all, if you missed Thursday's training or if you want to watch it again, you go into the bonus trainings, and it is this one right here. So it is here. It's ready for you. It's got sign language interpreting. It's got our captioning, and it's a 90-minute training. and it is ready to go. It's in the bonus trainings section, which is where all of our trainings that happen the first Thursday of the month will live through Labor Day. And then our on-demand trainings, we do have a few trainings that will support you if you are working with students who need sign. So these are our categories of trainings that we have inside of here. I would like to point out that all of our trainings are geared towards in the professional academy are geared towards any professional that works with a deaf or hard of hearing student. So this is not exclusive to itinerant teachers. We've got many SLPs, audiologists, we've got many interpreters inside of here. Any person, administration, anybody who works with our students and just needs to build the support and training is a member of the academy. And so a lot of people think since we're called the Online Itinerant, it's exclusive to itinerant teachers. Not true. I just want to put that out there. So you can see the different sections that we've got. So we've got trainings that are assessments, IEP, and legal considerations, collaboration and mainstreaming, deaf and other considerations. We've got a section that's specific towards itinerant teaching, specific to language and literacy, self-advocacy and transition, social and emotional development, and then technology. So all of these have the niche of working with students who are deaf or hard of hearing. In general, not specific to communication modes. There are some that are, and those typically are inside the language and literacy section. So a few things that are specific towards working with signing students. The ones you want to make sure that you watch is a bilingual approach to grammar. That is for students who really have language deprivation or who utilize ASL. This is Kristen DePerry and Todd Kasuzabek. I've probably slaughtered that. And then Kristen DePerry is back again for vocabulary principles for effective instruction. Again, great for signing students. Same with this one, supporting numeracy and math development in young children. Because what we know are that kids that are fluent and strong in language skills and understanding of math and spatial and that with their language, they do better in math and numeracy. So these are some great trainings for you. Something I want to point out about our trainings for those of you who are not yet members in the academy. When you click inside, you will notice that our trainings in this section are broken into what we call micro modules. So this is not an hour and a half training to sit and go through. It's actually created for people who are on the go, people who don't have a lot of time, people who maybe need the information in bite-sized pieces, either because they just don't have time to do the entire training, or they want to do a little bit and then they want to practice, and then they want to do a little bit and they want to practice. A little plug, the Online Itinerant has an app. So inside the app, you can go directly to a training, and then this is great for any of you who are on the road. You can actually listen to a training while you're driving. So they automatically move to from the next section to the next section. So if you have a 20-minute drive between students, you can easily get in a micro module and then easily pick up where you left off. Our trainings are interpreted into sign and do have captioning as well. So these are some really great trainings inside the Professional Academy. And inside the Parent Academy, there are, let me just show you what this looks like for you, because you can point to parents in the right spaces. All of the trainings inside the Friend Academy are created for parents. So some of them, actually, I shouldn't say they are all created for parents. Many of them are created specifically for parents, and many of them are the same trainings that are inside the Professional Academy, but it's the same training. So inside of here, we have a whole section on the impact of hearing loss and language. So incidental learning and also communication and language. These are great trainings for your parents who maybe their child doesn't have full access and does not have a strong language foundation. This kind of helps give them the lens of what they need to be aware of and how they can support their child. And it kind of really supports the seed, if you've been planting the seed about sign language and parents have been very resistant to it, but you feel that really this child needs that access, this is a really wonderful way to walk alongside parents and help them see those communication needs for their child and what that might look like. So those are a great training to be able to point your parents to, as well as this little section called Turn Knowledge into Action. This is where they take the training and then they actually put it into practice. And it walks them through the whole, let me look at my child with this lens and let me identify what are they missing? What are they getting? What are they missing? How can I support this for them? So a really, really nice way to walk alongside the parents. Okay, with that, I'm going to jump into the toolbox. I guess I'm looking at the top banner here before I do that. I want to make sure I'm covering everything for you. I do want to point out that if you're completing any trainings, we do offer CEUs and credits for all of those trainings, and we've got a number of different options underneath that. So we've got the Online Itinerant Certificate, but we also have, let me just click on it. These are the different credits that we offer. So we've got Act 48, which is through Pennsylvania. We've got AG Bell, we've got ASHA, we've got the state of New York, we've got the state of Illinois, and we have Minot, which is graduate credit for you, and then we have RID as well. Now, some of these, ASHA doesn't necessarily cover the signing courses, and I think that's kind of the big one that things don't always line up, but everything else is generally offered through, or excuse me, it's AG Bell isn't necessarily offered through like anything that has focused on signing, but everything else we offer those credits for. Okay. I'm going to walk you through the toolbox. So if you're a member of the Online Itinerant, once you're logged in, you'll notice you've got your menu up here, and you can go directly to the toolbox. It's a little bit of a shortcut for you. Inside the toolbox, this looks a little bit different today than it did last week because we made it so that when you step into the toolbox, we've got each section is outlined for you so that you don't have to go through every single section to get to that resource that's way over here in the IEP info, goals, and accommodations. There are some things I want to point out to you. We've got a section that's just a long list that's clickable. It's a catalog of all the tools and resources that we have inside. By the way, we have the same thing for our trainings. So when you look at it, you will see that it's a live document and it lines everything, what it is, the name of it, and then what it is. And then you can click directly on it and it will take you to the tool. So if you are wanting a little bit of a shortcut, if you want to be able to scan or scroll or just kind of get a bigger picture, there's that. Some people like to be able to look at the images and like to do that too. So that's the other way to do it. The other thing I want to highlight for you is our Audit-Proof IEP bundles. So language is coming later. Language isn't in here yet, but what we do have is self-advocacy, transition, and self-identity. And inside each of these, this is exclusive to Professional Academy members at this point, but we have an assessment. And then we have from the assessment, we've got different lessons that you can use to teach or to assess. From there, we've got specific audit-proof goals that you literally just can find out where a student is at in their assessments. You can go directly to the goals and you can copy and paste them into your IEP, personalize them for the student's name, make sure that the percentage is what you want it to be. And then you've got your IEP goals written. And then again, then you can come back to the checklist and the lessons, and you've got all of your lessons to be able to teach all of the goals. And then we've got data collection form. So this was created for you to make life easier for you, because I know that you're very, very busy. You don't have tons of time to work on IEPs, and you don't have tons of time to create goals or to find the assessments. It's all meant to be right here and easy for you to use. And that's new. This is a new thing this year. We've, like I said, self-advocacy, transition, and self-identity are the ones that have been released this fall. Coming in the spring, we will have language, both auditory language as well as signed language, as well as learning how to use an interpreter and different goals in an assessment to help identify how well a student is doing that and goals to be able to support them in doing it better. So those are the ones that are coming this fall, or excuse me, this spring. Okay, so inside the toolbox, one thing I want to point out to you, we do have this little magnifying glass in here and you can search. So if you are wanting to search for your ASL resources, you can just type in ASL and you will see a number of things that will pop up for you. So these are lessons, these are discussions, these are all kinds of information that talks about ASL within it. So it's a great starting point, and sometimes you'll even find more items as well. Once you find something that you're working on or that you really love, then what you can do is you can star it and then you can put it in your favorites section. If it's something you use commonly or you're going to come back to it and use it again next time you work with a student, this is what this looks like. It's this star up here. So you star it. And then let me just show you what it looks like when you've got something starred into your favorites. So you can see right here, here's my top things. And these are all of the favorites. These are kind of some of the things that I am using currently that I want easy access to with my students. So it just creates a little shortcut for you. As soon as you're done with it, just unstar it, and then it removes it from that favorites list for you. So again, focusing on this whole ASL need for our students, I want to point to you one of the sections in the toolbox. We're going to go to the language building section. We're going to go there, and the other place I'm going to point to you is the assessments and forms. So those are the two places I'm going to focus on tonight for our conversation. I want to start with the assessments and forms. There's two of them in here that I'm eager to show you. There are all kinds of assessments and forms inside of here, and there's often more that's coming. So the assessments that I want to point out to you that have specific skills towards kids that are signing, we have our ASL scale of development. That's this yellow one. The expanded core curriculum assessment has it has got all of these rubrics for all different areas. And sign language is a rubric that's inside of there. And then the other one I want to point out to you is the Kendall Conversational Proficiency Scale. So those are the three that I would love to point out to you tonight and talk about. I want to have a little, just not a disclaimer, but just a little, statement that I think when we're talking about students who sign, it's important to identify that signing really is a spectrum, right? And not only for the students that we work with, but for many, well, for the deaf adults in our society. So we've got people who don't sign at all. And then we've got the people who are very, very strong ASL and maybe they don't speak at all. But then you have everybody else who's kind of along the continuum, right? So maybe they mostly sign, but they have or they mostly speak, but they've got some supported speech. Or maybe they're closer to ASL, but maybe they kind of have a mix of English signs in there. And it's important to note that as we've got students who have access to sound and they've got hearing technology, maybe they've got cochlear implants, maybe they've got hearing aids. Not always ASL, American Sign Language is not always the direct route to be able to support them. Sometimes we need to kind of be along this spectrum and support them where their language is. So I mention that because this particular assessment right here called the ASL Scale of Assessment, I love this. I love this assessment. It is specific towards a student's ASL development. And it starts at intermediate. So these are for students that are kind of beyond the vocabulary, and they're starting to really communicate in sign, and that is their mode of communication. And it starts with intermediate and goes to early advanced and then to advanced levels. And this is a great assessment because you can just talk with them and then you can kind of identify where they are, and it helps you know where you want to go to move to their next level of development. So and this does talk about ASL grammar. It does talk about classifiers. It does talk about those ASL features that are specific to ASL. But it is a really nice informal assessment that you can do, and it doesn't take a lot of time. You can just have a child talk about a story, and then from that story, or talk about their day. And from that, you can identify where they are inside of here. And if they are not yet at intermediate, then that's important knowledge to have as well. The other assessment that I want to show you today is the Kendall Conversational Proficiency Scale. I love this assessment because it gives the levels of conversational proficiency, and it starts at level 0, which is typically, where babies are when they're just learning a language. This was created for signers, but it is not exclusive to signers. What it's exclusive to is looking at where kids' language level is at in terms of that conversational proficiency. And of course, what we know is before a child can have academic proficiency, they need a really strong foundation in conversational language. So typically conversational language is solid at 7 years of age. If you are a hearing child, it's the difference between Bix and Kelp, if you've heard that language before. But you have got that solid foundation in that conversational language by age of 7. And as we know, that's that second grade level. Remember how 3rd grade is where that academic language takes on, and that's where all of a sudden, things really change for students because it gets a lot more academic. So this is really identifying where they are at in terms of their conversational level. Now, this can be done, it is a checklist, and it can be done just by having conversations with your student, and you might not be able to check all the boxes. They might be up high in some areas and down low in other areas. But you'll notice this says, does the child sometimes imitate the signs produced by others, although with imperfect hand configurations and movements? So if they do that, then you would be able to check, yes, that they do that. And it goes all the way through, if you want to look at the most advanced level at approximately 7 years of age, where we would want a child to be, or excuse me, 13. So this is level 7. So this is actually 11 to 13 years of age. So this is more middle school. And it asks, does the child usually maintain a steady flow of fully idiomatic expression that is free of circumlocution? So this is just, can they just have this full fluid conversation using idioms, using, jokes? Can they just have that full conversation? And if they are all the way here, then they are absolutely fluent in that conversational signed language. So these are a couple assessments that I love for this. And let me just kind of show you this expanded core curriculum assessment on here as well. So this one is, I always like to tell people, if you can only have one document that has all of your assessments, this is a great one. It's long, but it has rubrics for all the different areas that we are typically assessing for our students. So I'm just going to scroll quickly for you and show you these rubrics. We've got audiology. We have got, here we go, career education. Got a lot of transition things in here. Communication, here, this is where we would look. We've got auditory skill development, and then we have our ASL developments. And so this is just a nice little checklist for you, where they are at in terms of beginning, intermediate, or advanced. So those are some easy assessments for you to be able to manage. Okay. Once you kind of have a sense of where your student is at, now the question is, but now what do I do? How do I get them from where they're at to where we want to be? How do people often ask me, do you have a class? Do you have a class that teaches a student how to sign? I want to show you, I'm going to go back into our language building section. And I would say almost all of these can be used for any language building, but there are some that are favorites of mine. The wordless language prompts are fantastic to be able to build language. And then this ASL resources inside of here, you'll click on this. And inside of here, we've got videos and books and all kinds of resources galore. Right now, I am working, I love the ASDC, American Society for Deaf Children. They have an ASL stories directory. I absolutely love it. I love it. I work with these stories. I show these to my students all the time. And right now, let's see, you can, where are the stories? They have a whole directory of ASL stories. And let's see, right now I'm going through turkey trouble with my students. And it's all in ASL, but it's got the book. So we've got the book, we've got the ASL. But if you'll notice all of these are all books that they have got in ASL. I mean, there's loads of them, loads and loads of them. This is great to put on your general ed classroom, put this on like one of their computers that they have a center for it. Let me go back. So all of these are different sign language stories and books. In addition, I like to point out that I like to share this with families. PBS has got all of these cartoons now, all with little sign language interpreters. So if you haven't seen this yet, if you remember, anybody remember Arthur? I don't think I've got the volume turned on for you, but you'll be able to kind of see this. So you can see that they've got the interpreter here on the side. So great to be able to put this on, share this with your mainstream teachers, because a lot of times they show videos, they show cartoons, they show this in the classroom. Put the interpreter up there for those students. Disney Plus also has that. It's a little bit of a couple steps to be able to get that though. And then people say, what about lessons? How can my students learn? I've got a couple different signed resources that have actually signed. Sign School is a favorite of mine that is great for kids or adults, and it's a free program. I've got schools that put this on a center for them at the school, and then all the kids in the classroom can have some sign instruction. Life Print is another great one that you can work through it with your students, but you can also share it with the adults in their lives. And then if you've got family members, this one is the only paid one. But the signing room is my favorite program. It's an all-you-can-sign program, and it's a membership. So there is, I don't know, I think about 20 different times during the week that people can sign in, and they can chat one-on-one with a deaf language model, but then they also practice with other people. It's the fastest way for people to get fluent. So if you have people working with a student who are not yet fluent, and aides who are not yet interpreters, they need the skills. The signing room is a really great way to be able to get them to their skills, and it's great for parents as well. The signing room is specific towards adults though. That one is just, it's adults that come, although there are other resources, there are other things that are other classes that have been built for children as well. So those are some of the resources that I wanted to share with you. What I want to do is I want to peek and see if you guys have put any chats or questions or anything else inside of here. And let's see, I see Corey has got a question. Do you have information on assessments that help to support the need for an interpreter at the preschool level? So I do, and really what I love to point out is that it's about language access, right? What we need to make sure is that our students are accessing language. And I hear this question a lot. I have people say, "Well, why would we give them a sign language interpreter if they don't know sign language?" Right? If they don't know sign, why would we teach them sign if they don't know sign? It's not about what they know, it's about what they have access to. So I am going to show you, I'm going to go into the toolbox here. Again, up here at the teaching toolbox. I don't know, Corey, if you are familiar with the functional listening evaluation. I'm going to come here to our assessments and forms. But there is something called the functional listening evaluation. This is in here for you. Gives the student an assessment of how well they can hear in like a noisy environment, when they can't see the teacher, when they are from a distance. And if they're struggling to get 90% or more in a noisy environment when they can't see the teacher's face, that means they don't have access for most of their instruction inside the classroom. Because that's what the general classroom is, right? It has noise. It's not a quiet one-on-one environment. There just is noise. And if they are struggling in that environment, then they probably would benefit from some visual language. Now, one thing I like to point out is you can't just put an interpreter in front of a student and think that they're going to magically learn how to sign, especially if they've got some auditory access. If they've got auditory access, then they will rely on that hearing as much as possible. And so what we want to do is we want to be able to support their sign language development. And that's where you want to build in some signing lessons for them and some sign language goals for them so that they can build their own language foundation. Let's see. The other thing that I like to point out that is really nice is this learning staircase for the auditory discrimination test. This is kind of it's not a long test, but what you do is, let me just click here to download it for you so you can see what this looks like. So this one gives the students, let me just show you what we've got. It's going to give the students 2 words, and they just have to identify, did you say the same word or did you say 2 different words? So that kind of gives you a sense of how well are they discriminating in the classroom. And again, I like to provide this with some noise, and I want to make sure I am sitting behind them so that they can't read my lips at all. But this will also really kind of point out and identify how much they're accessing auditorily. What you want to stay away from is trying to sign to them if they don't know sign yet, and trying to identify if they would learn how to sign. What you want to identify is, do they have auditory access, and where are they with that? Okay, I am looking back in the chat, and the question is, do I have or recommend a favorite sign print resource? So are you talking about like if you're wanting to write a story and then you want that in sign and you want to be able to print it and make worksheets? Denise, is that kind of what you're referring to? And she said, yes. Awesome. I got it right. I am trying to think of the resource. Is it ASL print? The one that I have seen that I like is, it's like you can make your own worksheets and you can just type it in just like that. I don't have that as part of the toolbox inside the Online Itinerant, but that's the one that I've heard really great things about. So that's a great question to be able to bring to a power hour and see what other people have, what other people are using and what they like. So Gala says, I work with a 6-year-old repeating kindergarten. Her speech is very hard to understand. I'm introducing some signs. Okay, I have a 3-year-old that is being tested for AU, but she does not speak or respond to auditory input. How is the decision made about sign language? Seems to go along with Corey's question. So, kids, they speak what they hear. If she's not intelligible, then unless there's something else going on, like maybe there is some apraxia or something like that. But it's likely that if they're not speaking very well, if their intelligibility is really muddy, then it's likely that that's what they're hearing too. And again, we want to be able to provide strong access to our students. So, all right. And Lee says, I was specifically interested in the Perez case as I have a student in a preschool medically fragile classroom who has auditory neuropathy. Parents want ASL as a primary language, and the educational audiologist and I got in trouble for suggesting a signing aid. The district doesn't want to provide a signing aid and wants to work on AAC for the students. Parents and I are frustrated with the district. So, we see this a lot, and I think definitely the training that's coming up the first Thursday in December is going to be perfect for you, Lee, because we are talking about that exact topic, the whole AAC device topic. And this is a person who is, they work with deaf students. So when is it a good fit and when is it not? A lot of times school districts don't want to put down a sign language interpreter because that's a specific category, especially if an interpreter is hard to find. They might want to look for a language facilitator or something different. So you'll definitely want to look at that case. And again, I would encourage you to come to our Power Hour on Thursday because we're going to be really kind of digging into some of those things and talk about some strategies. So I have already scrolled through the questions that are inside of here. Oops, there's another one. Great. Keep them coming. Okay. Yes, we talked about the difference between the interpreter and the signing aid. So, one of the things that happened in the Perez case is that well, first of all, the student was a Spanish speaking student. And so I think there was a question from the school about their fluency in English, their fluency in Spanish. There was definitely some language needs, but the bottom line is that the student had language deprivation in every language. And the person that they put into place did not provide them with that language foundation. They were supposed to provide them with that, and they didn't. The other thing that was foundational for this particular case is that the aide never took sign language classes to be able to improve the skills. So they kind of created like a home sign type situation. And these days, we're post-COVID, we're so blessed because there are so many virtual signing opportunities. So we've got online classes. There's things that happen, all throughout the day and the evening. So there is access to being able to learn some sign for anybody who is working with a student who needs that visual communication. So definitely, I would say come join us for the Power Hour, and we are going to be really just sort of discussing some strategies, some ideas, and basically identifying is this a FAPE issue? Like, do we actually need to have some hard conversations with our administration? And that particular training was shared with administration. If you were a member of the Professional Academy, then you had the opportunity to share it with your administration for free. They came to join us, and we're really hoping just to be able to support discussion, to be able to talk about it. That case, there was a lot more, I think, to that case, a lot more to the story than what we know. But what we do know is that the situations that school, that Sturgis was dealing with, is not an isolated situation. We're all dealing with similar issues in terms of shortage of interpreters, shortage of school programs that support students who need sign. So definitely a tricky thing. So with that, I want to see what other questions you have. This is an opportunity for you to ask about what else is in the toolbox. We've got a few more minutes. That if you've got certain resources that you're wondering about that you would like to see, or anything like that, I can dig into the toolbox. I can show, or into our trainings, I can point out specific things that would be helpful for you. Or otherwise, I can point you in potentially the right direction. So is there any questions that you have about what's offered inside the program, or about your membership, or about our tools and resources that are inside? Tony just asked, do the materials come in Spanish? And that is a question I get a lot. Right now, the tools do not come in Spanish. I'm actually looking for somebody, for a Spanish interpreter who could help with that, who would be willing to help kind of put some of that together. So if you know of anybody, send them my way. I would love to have the conversation. At this moment right now, we do not have it in Spanish. I do like to point out though, if you have a Spanish interpreter at your school who would be willing to come and interpret for a training or for a power hour or anything like that, we would love that. I would love that. Come and chat with me. And if you've got somebody who would be willing to help, then I would love to work with you to figure out a way to make that happen. Great question, Tony. Thank you. Other questions for you for tonight? Ashley says, I was planning to start a sign of the day for the mainstream. Anything already generated like this? Yes, there is. That sign school. Let me show you the sign school resource. Let's get a little peek inside of there. So again, if you have access to the membership here, let me go back to the toolbox. And I'm going to show you how to get here again. You're going to go to language building. And when you go to the ASL resources, this points out to you the program that is called Sign School. Now you can also just Google Sign School. But Sign School, let me see if I can sign in and show you what we've got in here. Let's see if it remembers my information. Hopefully it does. Let's see if I can get in. And inside Sign School, there is a sign of the day inside of here. Now, this program I actually love to have. I love to get schools to put this on, have a center. Anytime there's a center, the kids are doing like the 5 different stations. I love to have a sign language station for them. So inside of here, this is what this looks like. There is a beginner, intermediate, and advanced level. I really recommend the beginner. And there are lessons. So the basics is where you always want to start, but the first section is about me. Then there's talking about friends, and then there's talking about family. But what's super cute about this program is it gives you these, it's done by phrases. And then it shows you the sign. You can speed it up, you can slow it down. But then what will happen is let me skip a little bit. The camera comes on, and so then, well, this section here, you've got the multiple choice that teaches you the signs, and then you practice your receptive skills. But then the camera will pop on, and you're next to the person who's signing, so you get to sign it together. So it probably isn't good. Okay, so practice morning. It probably won't let my camera come up right now because I'm on Zoom, but my camera would come up and then I can sign it at the same time and it builds them. But back to the word of the day. You have it in there and it's already a part of it. And there's a finger spelling game and everything. So it's super cute. Already in here. That is Sign School. All right, Gala says, not really a question, but I come from a residential school background and changing to itinerant in the county has been a very difficult transition. This resource has been a life raft for me. Thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. We will go ahead and wrap up the tour. However, if you are not yet a member, I want to invite you to stay. I want to invite you to stay and I want to talk about what membership is. I want to answer your questions and I'm going to provide you with all the links and resources that you need. So thank you very much. Let me go ahead and stop the recording.